Hope, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim. How are you today?
I am doing great. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing fantastic. I feel like summer is here. The sun is kind of out in Wisconsin, and it's a great day to have a great day.
Oh, that's good. When summer is in the air, it revitalizes you, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. For those of you listening that either drive through the Midwest or live in the Midwest, we don't get a lot of sunny, nice, warm days. So this is absolutely a blessing.
It certainly is. And your topic this morning, as always, is another great one. Beat the spike. When I first saw Beat the Spike, okay, I'm thinking about heat or something like that. But you put that twist on it, the role of fitness in blood sugar control. And that is, of course, so true, isn't it?
It is. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in the trucking space, are struggling with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. And the narrative often when we go to maybe the doctor or have traditional conversations isn't always coming back to the really positive role that fitness can play in insulin sensitivity. And I feel like for a lot of drivers, they're struggling with this, and there is an alternative, or at least another thing you can add to your toolbox to help manage blood sugar, to help manage type 2 diabetes that you might not be giving enough attention to. And that really is the role of fitness in managing blood sugar.
Blood sugar and diabetes can really sneak upon you, and it's called the silent killer for a reason. Often there's no signs for that, is there?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, until it starts getting into that critical stage, a lot of people are not aware of what's going on. Sometimes insulin sensitivity, there can be symptoms as simple as fatigue, especially after you're eating, that people can just kind of ward off and say, oh, I just had a long day, or oh, I'm just tired. But that actually can be your body giving you a sign that's saying, hey, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing appropriately and managing my blood sugar right now. Like, you need to pay attention to this. Or some people might crave sugar or might have just like a little bit more hunger cravings. But again, it's such a common or such a normal thing that people, again, will write it off and say, oh, I'm just more hungry today, or I just want a sweet treat because, I just do. And they're not really connecting it to possibly a bigger problem. But Tim, some of the symptoms or some of the signs that actually are my favorite, and that sounds kind of weird, but because they're really easy to look at physically, is dark patches of skin, especially around your armpits or neck. Even skin tags can actually be a sign that you are on the cusp of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And so those are really easy physical signs to look at your body and say, okay, hey, what's really going on here? I might want to get checked. I might want to see if I am at risk. And there are some things that I can do to possibly prevent myself from going down that diabetic path.
Well, speaking of things that you can do rather to help prevent this or to get a handle on it before it gets too far, what do you suggest? What do you recommend in terms of exercising?
Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool things that we can add to our toolbox, no matter if you're a truck driver, a school teacher, a plumber, whatever you are, or whatever your profession is, you can add these little bouts of fitness into your daily life to make a really dramatic change on insulin resistance. And the cool thing is this ones I'm going to talk about today all have research back behind them. So this isn't just hope on the radio talking about fun things. All of these have researched and have studies behind them showing the dramatic effect on insulin resistance. And so the first one, and you've heard me talk about this before, but it's a walk. But the key here is walking after you eat, really specific for about 10 to 15 minutes. And the reason why is you're going to have that post-meal blood sugar spike after you eat, and walking is going to help your body absorb that glucose. Basically, what you want with exercise and managing blood sugar is you want the muscles to use the glucose. And so whenever you're being active, that's what your body's doing. It's like Cookie Monster inside of you, eating up that glucose. And when you're not doing that, it's just kind of sitting and circulating in your body. And so a post-meal walk, 10 to 15 minutes, for drivers, if you're listening, you're parked for the night, or maybe you're on your break, or you're waiting to load or unload, and you've just had lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever it is, and you're talking on the phone, get out of your truck, walk laps around your truck, set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes, and you're going to help your body, your muscles absorb that spike in blood sugar post-meal. It's such a simple, almost kind of silly thing to do, but you'll see this a lot in other countries. It's very common to go on a walk after you eat. And I think they're smart. They're realizing what it is that they're doing and how it's playing a role in their blood sugar.
Hope, I used to see when I was a boy, and I would see in our neighborhood, would see what I thought was older couples at that time, but they may have been in their 30s. I just thought they were old, but I would see them walking in the evenings. It was like after we had dinner, but I would see, I guess they had dinner and was walking through the neighborhood to walk the food off. And I used to hear my older relatives also would say that how they would walk the food off. That's how they called it after dinner. So it does have the health benefits to that, and as opposed to eating and then watching TV or going to bed, perhaps, which would be real bad for you.
Absolutely. And this is just about new habit creation. Sometimes the mind doesn't want to do things, but we know that the body needs it. The next one is one of my favorites. And so it's a pretty easy thing to do. Easy meaning it's not going to take a lot of time. When we're talking the walk, 10 to 15 minutes. This next one, maybe 60 seconds. And that's doing 10 squats. And so the research behind this is 10 squats every 45 minutes. Now, I know for a driver, they're like, 45 minutes, that's going to be impossible. And so I'm talking about this one because as frequently as you can, just doing 10 air squats. And the reason why is because the legs and the muscles in the legs are our largest muscle group. And so when we're squatting, we're utilizing all those muscles, they're all contracting, and that's going to improve your glucose uptake. Basically, your body kind of like sucking in the sugar in order to utilize it for fuel and burn it. And so just doing 10 squats, even if it's just 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, is going to make an impact on your body's overall health, particularly, again, in that diabetic road. If you feel like you're either dealing with diabetes, you don't want to be dealing with diabetes, or you just want to continue to move your body, and squats help you do that. So that's kind of a fun one, and they don't have to be pretty. If you're like, I can't get down very low, the only difference between a tight person and somebody that's a little bit more flexible or mobile is they got to go farther to feel the same thing. So whatever your squats look like, wherever you're starting at, like, you can add that to your list when you wake up in the morning, when you get out of the truck, when you're done for the day. That little bit is going to matter, and it is going to help.
Well, thanks for answering the question on if you can't squat all the way down to the floor. So that's me. So my squats won't be real pretty, but I'm going to start trying that. I'll start doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The next.
All right. Yeah, we're going to have next on the other side of these messages, Hope, and also when we come back out of the break too. Keep wanting to call him Diesel Dave, our producer. He changed his handle as Dispatch Dave now, but David, I didn't realize this until this morning, but he does yoga and he also went to yoga school. Didn't know that there was such a thing. I knew you could go to yoga classes, but anyway, he's going to chime in on that as well as far as the yoga aspect of it. But we'll be back on the other side of these messages. Hope Zavara is with us with Mother Trucker Yoga. Beat the Spike, the role of fitness and blood sugar control. That's what's on the table for discussion with Hope Zavara. And this is Tim Ridley on Sirius XM. Hope, hold that next thought right there, and we're going to bring David in real quick, and he's want to talk about the yoga that he does. And like I said, I didn't realize that, but David, good morning to you again, and come on in and tell us about your yoga experience.
You never know who does yoga because you think of it as like a guru from India, stand on his head and levitate, but it's a lot more practical. I love what Hope is bringing to the table. It's lowering blood sugar, even the stress of running the Tim Ridley show. Yoga helps out. Deep breaths, get that heart rate down when things go weird, and get back on track. So I think it's the trucking audience is a perfect audience for yoga, and it's not necessarily, like I said, standing on your head and levitating and kind of the tricks. It's just practical knowledge that's actually going to help you have a better day.
Yeah. Hope, are you still there?
I am.
Okay. Yeah. And one of the things, David, that Hope tells us as well is that, just like you just mentioned, a lot of times when you think about yoga, you're thinking about twisting yourself into pretzels and so forth. But you can start anywhere at any age, pretty much, to do yoga. And I've learned a whole lot from Hope too in these years as well, in terms of being able to stretch and to help be more flexible, and also the health benefits from that. David, we appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for chiming in on that.
All right.
So Hope, go right ahead with that next thought that you had as far as that next exercise.
Yeah, so the next one is going to be really easy for everyone to do, especially when they're getting in and out of their truck, filling up with fuel, and that is heel raises. So if you're standing, you're just lifting and lowering your heels up off the ground. You can do both at the same time. You can alternate. The reason why this particular exercise is so effective with reducing insulin is because the calf muscle actually has a lot of glucose receptors because it's such a big muscle. And so every time you contract it, it's going to kind of suck in that sugar again and use it for fuel, use it for energy. We've talked about the calves in previous shows, and another double bonus here is, remember, the calf is the hydraulic pump for the heart. Because we don't have anything in our legs to get that blood flow back up to the heart again, we need our calf muscle to act as that pump. So for drivers, this is why this is so important. You're getting a double whammy here. Because you're sitting all day, you're not utilizing that calf muscle. So not only is all of your blood pooling down in your lower body and not getting back up to the heart, so it's stressing the heart, but also you're not getting that utilization of sugar or turning it into glucose and burning it as fuel when you're walking. And so a way to kind of double back on that and kind of make up for lost time, so to speak, because you're not walking around as much as you should be during the day, is doing those heel raises. And so pumping that calf. Here's the kicker, though. You got to do about 45 of them in a row to really get that blood sugar going and really get that circulation going in your body again. And you'll have really great developed calf muscles at the end of the day as well. So there's a third bonus, I guess, too, Tim.
Absolutely. We'll be able to look impressive in your short pants this summer, right?
You got it. You got it.
All right. So what would be the next step, the next exercise you can do? And I didn't realize that about the heel raises, so I'm going to be doing those as well.
Yeah, it's such a great one to do. I really want to encourage everybody. That is one that you're going to see a big difference with for multiple systems in the body. Let's talk about the next one, though. The next one is we're going to do a throwback to middle school gym class, and that's the wall sit. And so the wall sit is an easy one. You can do it right up against your truck. You can do it up against the wall at home. And we're just looking for like 30 seconds, maybe 2 to 3 times a day. And this is a little bit of a different exercise because we're focusing a little bit more on static strength. So we're going to get what we call an isometric glucose burn, basically holding the body in one position and utilizing the muscles and kind of bringing that sugar into play that way to help us build strength and endurance and energy during that exercise. And it's also a good challenge. Like, when was the last time I've done a wall sit? Can I do it for 30 seconds? It's a great leg strength builder as well. From all of that sitting, it's going to improve back strength as well. So we kind of get a double whammy with that one too.
We're going to help. You're helping us rather with the insulin and also building up muscle and looking more impressive at the same time.
You got it. You got it. We're going to turn the page and focus a little bit on some yoga when it comes to insulin spikes and trying to control glucose and getting out of that road of diabetes. And so things like a seated twist, that's you in the driver's seat. And just maybe whenever you get a chance to, getting into the truck, getting out of the truck, turn towards your seatbelt, hold that for about 5 breaths, rotate and go the opposite direction. If you can, trying to do a forward bend, whether it's standing or seated, and again, holding that for at least 5 breaths. These are really easy things that you can do. Easy meaning they're not complicated. But the reason why we want to bring in some stretching into the mix, even if it's just really simple, even a lunge, reaching your arms overhead or one arm if you're using your truck for support, is because we're trying to trigger what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. I always think sympathetic stop. We want to stop that one. That's the fight or flight system. That's the one where we're always kind of running around feeling chaotic, feeling stressed, feeling a little burnt out. We want to get out of that part of our nervous system and get into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. The reason being is there's tons of research now around so many of us here in the U.S. particularly walking around with really high cortisol levels. And that's basically your stress response. You're constantly stressed. You're constantly in fight or flight. You're not sleeping well. You're fatigued all the time. You're maybe a little grouchy, which are similar symptoms to kind of that borderline type 2 diabetes, kind of ironic. But when we can get into the parasympathetic nervous system, we not only de-stress and relax and chill out a little bit, but it also has a really positive effect on blood sugar spikes. So we're going to see a much more even glucose level in our body when we do some stretching, when we do some deep breathing. And that can be as simple as 1 or 2 quick little stretches. And, 5 breaths or so, 60 seconds-ish can make a really big difference on trying to manage blood sugar. And so if you have your favorite stretch, if you have, a few moves that you've collected over the years to listening to Tim and I want to encourage you to think about doing those daily, because that really is positively impacting you, not only in the stress category, but in the blood sugar balancing category as well.
Absolutely. Have an email for you, Hope, and she says, "Good morning, Hope. Thank you for this timely topic here. I'm on the borderline of having diabetes. I'm 54 years old, and I'm a type A personality. Does that have anything to do with insulin spikes and being in a hurry all the time?"
I'm not directly sure. I'd have to do a little bit of research, but just talking about the topic that I just brought up previously and my knowledge around that, I would say that type A personality where you're constantly kind of in a high state of stress or fight or flight, we call that the sympathetic nervous system. Your cortisol levels are probably a little high, and so that can negatively impact blood sugar levels. So doing things like deep breathing, doing things like find those 1 or 2 stretches we talked about, or any one of the exercises that we talked about today, the role just overall that exercise plays in our everyday lives affects every system in the body. And so we are one of the very few cultures across the globe that doesn't have a very active lifestyle. And I can see the effects on that. We're seeing the repercussions of that. So just trying to make more of a diligent effort to do some of the things we talked about, do some deep breathing, get out and walk post-meal. We talked about the benefits of that beyond even blood sugar. You're going to start to see a positive effect on your life. And, you may not ever change from a type A person. There's nothing wrong with that. But can we round the edges out a little bit? Can we soften that a little bit? So that it's not playing a negative role on our body, whether it's our blood sugar, whether it's hormone balancing, whether it's sleep. We can make a big dent in those categories and more when we start to take more seriously the need for all over movement. Let's not even call it fitness if you feel like that's the plague and you want to avoid that, but you got to get up and move. Your body really does depend on it, and your blood sugar really does depend on it.
All right. We have a couple of minutes left. I'm going to squeeze in one more email. He wants to know if well, let me rephrase this, get it from the beginning. He has very bad knees. He says, I can barely squat at all. How low do I need to squat in order to get the benefits from that?
I'm so glad you asked this question. And so I like to call them mini air squats. If you can get your hips down, 2 to 4 inches and really engage the glutes, squeeze the quads and come back up again, you're going to get that benefit. I'm a big believer in go as low as you can go, but you want to engage the lower body muscles. Because remember, the key here is when we contract the muscles, the quads, the calves, whatever it is, that we're kind of sucking up that glucose and we're using it for energy in the muscles. It's the fastest way for your body to process glucose or insulin is through contraction, is through activity, movement. And so to get the most bang for your buck, if you do have bad knees, I know a lot of you listening do, if you can get down even just a couple of inches, the key, though, is on the way back up, squeeze the glutes, contract the quads. If you want to add a little heel raise at the top, get that calf raise in there, too. You're going to get kind of a double whammy there. But I'm a big believer that a little bit goes a long way, and it's always going to be better than doing nothing.
Absolutely. All right, we're down to a few seconds. Tell us how we can get in touch with you, Hope.
Absolutely. You can find me on all social platforms. You can search me up on Google, Mother Trucker Yoga. You can also check out our book, Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. Have a lot of these exercises we talked about today and more. Just an opportunity for you to start exploring fitness and movement for your everyday life as a driver.
All right, Hope. Thanks a million. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for all you do.